Everything that exists in your life right now began as a thought. Whether it's the home you live in, the work you do, the relationships you maintain, or the problems you face, each one is, in some way, the result of a decision, and that decision was born from thought. This is the great starting point of any meaningful transformation. If you want to build the life you truly want, you must begin not by changing your circumstances, but by changing your mind. The trouble is, most people have never been taught this. They believe their lives are shaped by chance, by luck, by the economy, by other people's decisions, and while circumstances may influence, they do not create. What creates is the sustained focus of thought, conscious, deliberate, and disciplined. You are always becoming the result of the thoughts you consistently entertain, whether you're aware of them or not. The human mind is a powerful, creative force. It builds reality through attention and belief. Whatever you think about most becomes the dominant influence in your behavior, and behavior, repeated over time, becomes your life. So when you entertain doubt, fear, or mediocrity, when you dwell on what's missing, what's wrong, or what might go wrong, you are building a life that reflects those thoughts. The blueprint for failure is not found in action, it's found in thought. Now, this is not a shallow suggestion to just think positive. A positive thinking alone is not the answer. The mind must be trained, focused, and fed. It must be exposed daily to the images, words, and ideas that align with the life you want to build. Thought without intention is noise, but thought guided by purpose becomes power. This is where clarity becomes essential. You cannot think effectively about what you haven't defined. So if you've never asked yourself what kind of life you truly want, what it looks like, how it feels, what values it honors, your mind will default to habit, and habit, when left unexamined, often leads to repetition of the past. If you want to create something new, you must first imagine it in detail. You must hold it in your mind with clarity, belief, and repetition until it begins to take root. It's like planting a seed. At first, nothing appears to change, but with care, with sunlight, with water, the seed begins to grow. The same is true of thought. At first, it seems intangible, even silly, to hold a vision in your mind when reality doesn't reflect it. But every great achievement began this way. The skyscraper was once a sketch. The symphony was once a single note. The company was once an idea scribbled on paper. Before the physical world changes, the mental world must lead. This is why what you allow into your mind matters so greatly. The books you read, the conversations you engage in, the media you consume, these are the materials out of which your thoughts are built, and your thoughts are the foundation of your life. Most people guard their wallets more carefully than their minds, but your mind, not your money, is the greatest asset you own. It is the engine behind every choice, every action, every opportunity, and here lies the challenge. The mind is powerful, but it is also susceptible. It does not resist influence. It reflects it. So if you do not take control of what you think, the world will think for you. You will live by someone else's agenda, someone else's values, someone else's dream. You'll find yourself busy, but not fulfilled, productive, but not purposeful, surrounded, but not connected. You must, therefore, become the architect of your own thought. Decide what kind of life you want. Picture it clearly. Begin to dwell on that image until it becomes real in your mind. Speak it, write it, reflect on it, and each day feed your mind with ideas that strengthen it, ideas that align with your vision, that affirm your worth, that push your limits. Train yourself to think in harmony with your goals, not in contradiction to them. Because when your thoughts change, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your behavior follows. And when your behavior changes consistently, so does your life. This process doesn't need to be forced. It needs to be understood. You do not need to make it happen all at once. You simply need to begin. And so I leave you with this. Asterisk, the life you truly want is not waiting for you somewhere out there. It is waiting for you inside your mind right now in this moment. Begin there and everything else will follow. Asterisk, most people never get what they truly want. Not because it's impossible, not because they lack the ability, and certainly not because the world has conspired against them. They simply never take the time to decide with clarity and conviction what it is they truly want. They float through life with vague desires and unfocused effort, hoping things will work out, wishing for change, waiting for luck. But in the world of achievement, there is no room for uncertainty. To build the life you truly want, you must first define it. You must decide exactly what that life looks like, and commit to that vision with unwavering clarity. The mind is a goal-seeking mechanism. It operates much like a guided missile, constantly adjusting, adapting, and responding to internal direction. But here's the key: it cannot hit a target that doesn't exist. If you don't set the goal, your mind will wander. It will chase distractions. It will follow the crowd. It will react to life instead of leading it. That's the difference between living intentionally and living accidentally. We live in a world that celebrates busyness. People pride themselves on being in motion, juggling tasks, chasing deadlines. But movement alone means nothing without direction. A person can run very fast in the wrong direction. And sadly, many do, exhausting themselves in the process, never stopping to ask the most vital question of all. Asterisk, where am I going? Asterisk, the mind requires clarity like the body requires oxygen. When you decide what you want, clearly, precisely, you provide your mind with structure. You give it something to work on, to move toward. You give discipline a reason to exist. Without that clarity, discipline becomes hollow. It feels forced, burdensome, disconnected. But when you're working toward a vision that inspires you, discipline becomes natural. It becomes necessary. It becomes part of who you are. This is why vague desires don't produce real results. Saying, I want to be successful, I want to be happy, or I want to be free, sounds good, but it means nothing until you define those terms. What does success look like to you? How will you know when you've found happiness? What does freedom mean in your day-to-day life? When you answer those questions, you start building a blueprint. And once the blueprint is in place, your thoughts, actions, and habits have something to align with. It's not enough to wish. A wish is passive. It lacks structure. It fades. A decision, on the other hand, is active. It takes shape in your mind and demands action. When you decide, truly decide, you eliminate confusion. You stop entertaining conflicting desires. You cut away the noise and make room for focus. This kind of decision requires courage. It means taking ownership of your life. It means refusing to blame circumstances or other people for your lack of progress. It means acknowledging that while you can't control everything, you can control the vision you hold and the direction you pursue. And something remarkable happens when you do this. Life starts to organize itself around your clarity. You begin to notice opportunities you once ignored. You start making decisions more quickly. You begin to attract people and experiences that support your vision, not because of magic, but because of mental alignment. What was once vague becomes visible. What was once uncertain becomes certain, and with that certainty comes momentum. This momentum is not reserved for the elite. It's available to anyone who will do the work of deciding. Because once you've made a clear decision about what you want, everything else becomes easier. You know what to say yes to. More importantly, you know what to say no to. You stop scattering your energy and start channeling it. You stop doubting and start doing. You stop drifting and start building. But the key is that you must decide. The world is full of noise, full of people ready to suggest who you should be, what you should want, and how you should live. If you don't make your own decision, someone else will make it for you. And you may spend your life climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. So take the time, be honest. Be specific. Close your eyes and picture the life you want. Not the life others expect of you, not the life that feels safest, but the one that speaks to your heart, the one that demands your growth, the one that feels worth building, even if it takes time, even if it demands sacrifice. That vision, your vision, is your compass. It's your guide through uncertainty. It's your foundation for discipline, and it's yours to choose. So let me leave you with this. Asterisk, if you don't decide what you want, the world will decide for you. But the moment you choose, truly choose, everything begins to align in your favor. Decide today, and the life you want will begin taking shape tomorrow. Asterisk discipline is a word often misunderstood. To many, it conjures images of punishment, of restriction, of something heavy and unpleasant. But when we look closely, when we examine its roots and its role in the building of a life worth living, we find something quite different. Discipline, properly understood, is the great liberator. It is the tool that turns desire into reality. Without it, even the clearest vision and the strongest ambition dissolve into wishful thinking. Discipline is the muscle that moves the mind's ideas into the world of form. Think of desire as a spark. It's necessary. It's the beginning, but by itself it fades. If you want to build a fire that lasts, you need fuel, you need structure, you need consistent effort over time. That's what discipline provides. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's not about forcing yourself to suffer. It's about training yourself to act in alignment with your deeper goals, regardless of how you feel in the moment. You've probably heard the saying that success is not owned, it's rented, and the rent is due every day. That's another way of saying that discipline is the daily price you pay to live a life of excellence. And here's what's most important. It's not about doing massive things once in a while. It's about doing the small, right things over and over until they become second nature. You see, human beings are creatures of habit. We don't rise to the level of our intentions. We fall to the level of our routines. You may intend to become strong, successful, fulfilled. You may desire peace of mind, financial independence, deep relationships. But unless you consistently act in ways that build those things, you'll always feel like they're out of reach. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And it's built not overnight, but moment by moment, decision by decision. Each time you do what you said you would do, especially when it's inconvenient, you reinforce an identity of strength. You tell yourself, I am the kind of person who follows through, and that internal message is powerful. Because the way we see ourselves ultimately governs how we behave. It's worth noting that real discipline is internal. External rules may guide you for a while, but lasting transformation only comes when you've made a personal commitment to something greater. When your actions are rooted in a clear why, a deep sense of purpose, discipline becomes less about willpower and more about alignment. You stop thinking in terms of what you have to do, and start focusing on what you choose to do, because you know who you're becoming. And this brings us to one of the most overlooked truths in personal development. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is its foundation. People think freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want. But that kind of living leads to chaos. It leads to regret. Real freedom is the ability to live life on your terms, to follow through on your goals, to be the master of your own time, mind, and future. And that level of freedom can only be built through discipline. Because without discipline, desire stays locked in the mind. It never materializes. You may dream and imagine and talk about the life you want, but nothing changes. Days become weeks, and weeks become years. The dream grows cold. The spirit dims, and slowly you begin to believe that perhaps it was never meant for you, but it still is. The only missing piece is action. And the only thing that sustains action is discipline. The beauty of this truth is that anyone can begin. You don't need special talent or access or perfect conditions. You only need a decision. You only need to begin today to choose one small action that aligns with your greater vision. And do it. Then do it again tomorrow. Then again the next day. That is how legacies are built. That is how self-respect is earned. That is how a life of meaning takes shape, brick by brick, through the quiet power of disciplined action. And make no mistake, it is quiet. No one will applaud your consistency. No one will hand you awards for doing the hard things when no one's watching. But something more important will happen. You will look in the mirror and see someone you trust, someone you admire, someone who can be counted on, and that, more than any applause, is the greatest reward of all. So I urge you now, as you listen, to reflect not just on what you want, but on what you're willing to do consistently to bring it into reality. Because that decision, more than talent, more than intelligence, more than opportunity, is what will determine the quality of the life you build. Asterisk discipline is not punishment. It is proof that you are serious about your purpose, committed to your vision, and willing to act on your dreams until they become your life. Asterisk, if there is one quiet truth that determines the direction of every life, it is this: your future is being built by your daily habits, whether you realize it or not by the one-time effort, not by the occasional burst of motivation, and not even by the biggest decisions you've made in the past. It's built by what you do today, and then again tomorrow. And the next day after that. Over time, those repeated actions, no matter how small they seem, become the architecture of your life. Now, this idea may sound simple, even obvious, but it's often overlooked. Why? Because daily habits are rarely dramatic. They don't produce immediate results. You go for a walk instead of skipping it. You feel a little better, perhaps, but the scale doesn't move. You read a chapter of a book instead of scrolling through your phone. Your life doesn't change overnight. But the effects are cumulative, invisible at first, but powerful. What begins as a choice becomes a pattern. What becomes a pattern becomes a lifestyle, and your lifestyle becomes your destiny. The mind, remarkable as it is, thrives on consistency. It's always trying to automate your behavior. It's designed to conserve energy, to form routines, to act without constant deliberation. That's why habits are so powerful. Once a behavior becomes automatic, it runs on autopilot. But the question is, what direction is your autopilot set toward? Most people live reactively. They wake up and immediately respond to the demands of the world. They move from one task to the next, rarely stopping to ask, asterisk, is what I'm doing today aligned with the life I truly want to build? Asterisk, they wait for motivation. They rely on willpower. But the most successful people, the most fulfilled, the most disciplined, don't rely on either. They rely on systems. They understand that habits are stronger than moods, and they design their lives accordingly. This doesn't mean living rigidly. It doesn't mean stripping life of spontaneity or joy. Quite the opposite. When you build strong habits, you free your mind. You create space. You no longer waste energy deciding whether or not to take the right action. You just do it. You don't debate whether to wake up early, to study, to exercise, to stay focused. You've already decided. The behavior is embedded in your routine. That is where real power lies, not in grand declarations, but in quiet, repeated action. And it's not about doing asterisk more asterisk. It's about doing what matters most, consistently. A few well-chosen habits, aligned with your vision, practiced daily, can transform your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. But let me be clear, habits are not neutral. You are always building them, consciously or unconsciously. Every time you reach for your phone out of boredom, every time you speak with complaint instead of gratitude, every time you put off the task you know matters, you are strengthening a behavior. You're casting a vote for the person you will become, and over time that vote becomes a pattern, and the pattern becomes your character. This is why awareness is so critical. You cannot change what you don't first observe. Begin to notice your patterns, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask yourself, what am I rehearsing every day? Are these actions building the future I desire, or are they silently sabotaging it? The answers may surprise you, but they will also empower you, because the truth is, you don't need a complete overhaul. You don't need to fix everything at once. You only need to choose a single habit and begin. Start small, but start with intention. A 5-minute meditation in the morning, writing down your top priority before the day begins, reading 10 pages of a book that expands your thinking, going to bed 30 minutes earlier. These are not heroic acts, but they are powerful ones. And once the momentum builds, everything changes. You'll find that your confidence begins to grow, not because of some external achievement, but because you're living in integrity. You're keeping promises to yourself. You're proving day by day that you are capable of discipline, of clarity, of growth. And yes, it will be hard sometimes. Habits don't always feel rewarding in the beginning, but the discomfort is temporary. The rewards are lasting. You must hold the long-term vision close even when the short-term payoff feels distant, because the future is always built on faith. Faith in the process, faith in the compound power of consistency, and most importantly, faith in yourself. So let me leave you with this. Asterisk, your habits are the architects of your destiny. You are building something, whether you know it or not. Build wisely, build intentionally, and soon you will wake up inside the life you once only dreamed about. Asterisk.